Last year, when I got to check out different indie games from E3, a highlight from those videos was Thimbleweed Park, a spiritual successor to Maniac Mansion by the original creators of that game, including Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick. It was one of my favorites from the show, and last week it went on to be released, and given a great amount of praise from fans and critics, garnering, at the time of this recording, only 9 negative reviews on the game's Steam page out of over 330 reviews. And after spending about 11 hours in the park, I did have a good time, but I was left disappointed in a lot of areas of the game, and to be honest, I was surprised I was in the minority that thinks so. If you're a longtime fan of this channel, you know I like a lot of adventure-style modern games like the Journey Down series or 2064 Read-Only Memories. So the usual hangups from this genre, like getting stuck from a puzzle where I can't progress, weren't what kept me from enjoying the game. In fact, the puzzles are pretty fun, inventive, and well-balanced here. So instead of going into my usual thing, I thought I'd discuss what could have been improved or what doesn't work from Thimbleweed Park, in the hopes that if the developers at Terrible Toybox want to revisit this genre again, they'll be able to build on their foundation. That's why this video is called My Thoughts on the Game rather than a detailed review. Quick note, this video will contain a few minor spoilers, both from the plot and from the puzzles. If you don't want any small detail ruined, I suggest playing the game first. Also, considering that Thimbleweed Park is something that a lot of people have enjoyed with positive reviews and praise on the internet, with everything I have to say, please don't kill me. So while most of the game gives you plenty of time to progress without it prodding you to move forward, Dolores' flashback section felt very poorly thought out in comparison. There are moments in this section when it's pushing you too far to advance in the story, rather than let me explore it at my own pace. Dolores keeps mentioning getting the mail at the beginning of this section in almost every minute.
I should check the mailbox. Maybe my computer magazine's arrived with some new game reviews. Seems like the mail should have arrived by now. I should check the mailbox for my computer magazine. If it weren't for my monthly computer magazine, being here would totally suck.
And then when you do finally get it and go back to the house, the doorbell won't stop ringing until you go back and get the package that the postman forgot to give you. I like to take my time with these games and explore the area, finding interesting items or talking to fun characters, especially since this section has a wall of books written by the game's Kickstarter backers, and I felt like I was being nagged constantly to progress with the plot. The game has 2 difficulty modes, a casual and a hard mode made for more well-versed players, and I played this game on the hard setting because I've had some good adventure game experience. But guess what? This section on hard difficulty had a moment when Dolores decided to flat out tell me where I needed to go in order to find an item that I needed.
Gotta find a book on mucus. If only there were a large library nearby.
Part of the fun of adventure games is outwitting the game's puzzles. It felt like holding my hand to solve the puzzle and felt like a slap in the face of my intelligence. I know I'm talking about little minor nitpicks here, but so much of what's frustrating about Thimbleweed Park is that these different nitpicks added up and they all could have been fixed fairly easily by the team. It's not like Sonic Boom or Ride to Hell Retribution where everything is a complete mess and nothing works. The game looks and runs very well, but these simple quirks that could have been removed very easily weren't. It could have had the postman give me the package immediately after I got the magazine, so I wouldn't have to walk away only for the stupid doorbell to ring. They could have not given me the solution to a puzzle right away. At one point I found a puzzle involving getting a lawyer that I couldn't solve until the next chapter of the game. Why not just have this puzzle locked in the will section instead of having this earlier? They didn't really need to tell me to use the staircase every time I wanted to go up an area instead of just clicking on it like everything else in the game. If this thing were a poorly programmed game by a beginning new developer, it's one thing when they're new to making games and you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt, but these people know what they're doing. They practically invented the genre, and it's baffling to me how such a competent team made so many poorly thought out decisions. And that poor thinking also extends to the game's storytelling. I could go into detail about a lot of the bland exposition dialogue, some of the jokes that fall flat, the completely unpleasant and irredeemable characters like Dolores' sister, and how the game never explains why these 4 main characters would work with each other in the first place. You'd think there would be a scene where they all got together and put aside their differences to work with each other. That never happens. Seriously, Dolores gives a line about never working with the feds.
I'm not handing this over to the feds. They wouldn't know what to do with it anyway.
But was A-OK trading items earlier,
Thanks for the dust.
and goes into a police station to fix equipment. How is she even allowed to get in there? And this isn't played off as a joke either, just leaving me confused and questioning the game's logic, but not in a fun way. And another big issue that you run into is Chuck's diary. At one point midway in the game, Dolores finds a diary of an important supporting character. Thimbleweed Park is a big mystery game where you have to solve everything without spoilers, building up the big secret that haunts this town. But when you find this book midway through the game and open it up, it spoils a lot of the mystery here. What's hidden in the town, what Chuck was working on, what happened in an earlier accident, the neck, the tail, the whole damn thing. It spoils its own story, and the suspense of what's happening in the town is gone after that. Now the rest of the game is just me getting to that point knowing what's already happened. Why was this diary even there in the first place? This should have been later in the game, like near the end of it, not midway through the story ruining the secret. In fact, that actually happens later in the game where you find another diary. Why weren't they both just there where I could find all this information? I don't But if there's any one small note in the game's writing that seems to be a highlight, it's the convenience store attendant. Here you can have a conversation with him and he decides to drop this fact on you.
My mom says I should be more like my cousin Bernard, who got a scholarship to MIT. But why be like that dweeb when I could be like Chuck Edmund?
Wait, Bernard? Bernard? This Bernard? Thimbleweed Park is a prequel to Maniac Mansion? Well, it turns out no. I contacted their team about this, and not only does Terrible Toybox not own the rights to Maniac Mansion, but Thimbleweed Park was never meant to be in the same universe as Mansion. But if I didn't have this media contact, this being in the same universe as that would have been a completely different read. I started to think about the different timelines with everything and how it didn't all add up with everything else, especially with the game's ending, which I don't want to spoil. I thought they did something really terrible to those original games. But they didn't, and Thimbleweed is in its own universe, but could you blame me? The game makes a lot of meta jokes bringing up its history, and there are a lot of cameos coming from Maniac Mansion. Ron Gilbert has publicly stated several times that he wants the rights to Maniac Mansion, and I was beginning to think that he got them through these cameos and the liberal use of the characters, especially considering how Double Fine has gotten to do remasters and remakes of Tim Schafer's classics from the days of LucasArts. Granted, those are in collaboration with Disney Interactive, but I thought maybe the House of Mouse finally gave Gilbert his baby back. So this brings me back to the line. This clerk is a very minor character, and his relationship with Bernard is never brought up again. This line isn't played off as a joke, and they never say anything otherwise about it. My point is that no one at Terrible Toybox gave much thought to this line, and how it possibly directly ties into those two games could have done serious damage to not only Thimbleweed Park, but the whole legacy that the game is banking on. I know we're on Big Bang Theory levels of stereotypical nerdiness when bringing this up, and I'm guessing that many others thought it was just meant to be a cute little throwback to Maniac Mansion, but this information feels so out of left field and underdeveloped that I don't understand what the joke was supposed to be. Without that clarity in writing jokes, I'm only left to take it seriously. And people pay attention to these small details. There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to finding these little quirks. And nobody thought of the serious damages that this could have caused to the timeline of Maniac Mansion in the Day of the Tentacle. Why they decided to even have this line in here, I have no idea. Again, I do want to stress this part that I enjoyed Thimbleweed Park. It had a lot of funny and creative moments, like the meta puzzle near the ending that I dare not spoil, and overall it struck me as a great balance of puzzle difficulty. However, in my playthrough, these minor gripes added up to make what should have been a great retro throwback into just an okay game. I feel like Thimbleweed Park is an A+ student giving me a C+ paper. If it had just taken a little bit more time to think about its story and weird quirks, it'd be getting a 4.0 grade point average. And I know this is an A+ student that could do better, so I'm much more harsh that they didn't put their usual effort into this. There's a great game in here, and just small adjustments, removing some lines, and getting rid of that diary would have made it a modern classic in my eyes. Like what many other YouTubers and critics have been saying about Zelda Breath of the Wild, No game is perfect, and hopefully some adult, constructive criticism can help Terrible Toybox create a game that really kills. So that was a very different episode than I expected to make after playing this. If you enjoyed hearing my thoughts, be sure to hit subscribe, and feel free to watch other videos on the channel. I hope you found what I had to say here interesting, and as always, thank you for watching.